share with you the account of the ascension of Jesus, as in ascension, from the book of Acts, chapter 1. So when they had come together, they asked Jesus, "Lord, is this the time when you will restore the kingdom of Israel?" He replied, "It is not for you to know the times or periods that the Father has set by his own authority. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." When he said this, as they were watching, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of sight. While he was going and they were gazing up towards heaven, suddenly 2 men in white robes stood by them. They said, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up towards heaven? This Jesus, who has been taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven." And then they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. When they had entered the city, they went to the room upstairs where they were staying. Peter and John and James and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas, son of James. All these were constantly devoting themselves to prayer, together with certain women, including Mary, the mother of Jesus, as well as his brothers. So ends the reading of God's holy word.
Praise be to God.
Invite us to pray. Eternal God of understanding, bless us with these words from the book of Acts, the Acts of the Apostles. May we take them in, roll them around within our spirits, ponder them, and find the blessing that you have within them for each of us in our living. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. Well, I haven't done this in quite a while, but I imagine many of you have done it, and that is drive up to Rochester North County Airport to pick up folks who are visiting, maybe at a holiday time. And I just think of all the good times over the years, the excitement of seeing them when they come into view, walking down the corridor, meeting and greeting, and just kicking up a little bit of a fuss and joy. But of course, taking somebody back to the airport can be a little different feeling. Usually. I've done that a few times. Unfortunately, rarely have I had a sense of relief in taking somebody back to the airport. And I almost have never watched anyone take off, which is quite a contrast to witnessing many people land with eager anticipation. Saying goodbye is a lot harder. And so I feel a little bit of empathy for those who were there to watch Jesus take off. They stayed right with him through his final departure. And it must have been quite something. I don't understand it. But it's an amazing thing to think about. It's one thing to watch somebody take off in a plane, but it's a whole other thing to watch them do it without a jet engine. I think I'd be in shock. And somehow a couple of angelic beings standing next to me informing me that Jesus would come back in the same way that he left would only cause me to wait longer. In case he came back in 5 minutes. I don't want to miss it. But sooner or later, as the clock ticked on, not that there was a clock, the stunned disciples probably eventually got the message that he was gone. Maybe for quite a while. Life needed to go on. Dinner was waiting. There were chores to do. Slowly, life has to get back to normal. But it's not always easy to get back to normal. I'm jumping way around the calendar to another holiday, but my mind went to the movie White Christmas. And there's a scene in there when General Waverly has come back from the war after serving his country, and he's dressed in his whatever blue jeans and t-shirt, dutifully discharging one of his primary tasks now at the hotel, taking out the trash. And he performs this task with grace and dignity, but at the same time, there is that little part of him that still wonders if he might have a place back with the brass in Washington. It can be hard to make that change. Some time ago, a friend of mine shared this quote. I don't know where it came from. It goes this way. Before enlightenment, chop wood and haul water. After enlightenment, chop wood and haul water. I kind of find that quote comforting and also disturbing at the same time, because I think I like to believe that experiences of enlightenment and growth can make us new people with maybe new capacities and new goals. On the other hand, there's something reassuring that no matter what we may do, what kind of enlightenment we may encounter in life, our tasks remain essentially the same. The two men in the white robes asked the disciples, "Why gaze into heaven? They'll come back." And it's easy to tease out from that another message, which is essentially, get on with it. Yes, you've just witnessed a true blue miracle, but there's more work to be done back home. On the mall, and I don't mean Eastview, on the big mall in Washington, D.C., immediately behind that enormous sculpture of Abraham Lincoln are these words: "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." These words, by the way, are bathed in light 24/7, so that they can be read even at the darkest hour, which may be exactly when they need to be read. Seated on that colossal chair, we can almost hear the president saying, "We here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Words that he uttered at Gettysburg. Words that embody some of the highest ideals of our nation. But there's something I also noticed about the Lincoln Memorial, the times when I've been there to actually visit it. No one lives there. At least not for long, not if the Park Service has anything to say about it. As the expression goes, it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there, and you can't. We're not meant to live at the Lincoln Memorial, or any other memorial. We are meant to visit it, learn from it, go back home, and as much as possible, live it. There's too much good work yet to be done now. And it's got to be done back home in Peoria or Bristol, where the birth of freedom needs to come alive for all people. Our veterans don't serve and die for the sake of marble statues. They serve and die for the sake of flesh and blood human beings like us, who live out our lives day to day, trying to embody these values of equality and justice and truth and respect in very ordinary ways. Offering respect to people we meet, walking gently upon the earth, giving others the benefit of the doubt, serving the greater good, resisting prejudice, rejecting greed, and yes, sometimes even taking out the trash. Jesus will come back in some form, in some way. But will we have to show him when he does? Robert Browning wrote this pretty familiar quote, I'm sure. "A man's reach should exceed his grasp." I think he meant women too. And sometimes, admittedly, stretching is not wise, especially if we're up on the top step in the kitchen reaching for a china plate. But in a deeper sense, in our journey with Christ, I believe we are called to stretch. Stretch all the way up to those soaring ideals upon which our country was founded, even if we don't quite reach them. From the story, I find it very comforting that upon seeing Jesus ascend to heaven, his friends returned home, they climbed upstairs and they prayed. It's so down to earth, so ordinary. What would you do after witnessing your very first ascension? I think after a Tylenol or two, I think I'd start asking for guidance real quick. Okay, now what? Lincoln spoke of those who gave the last full measure of devotion. And those are the ones we honor today. In addition to them, there are those in this land who perhaps did not give their last full measure of devotion, but they gave a heck of a lot of devotion. And many of them are suffering. They're tormented by horrific dreams at night. Some of them World War II vets, still tormented by horrific dreams. Plagued by addictions, crumbling marriages, stifling depression and anxiety. And I think they deserve every bit of our devotion to help them heal from these soul-piercing ravages of war. We need to take care of those who serve, just as we need to safeguard those ideals for which they gave so much. Earlier in the speech at Gettysburg, overlooking a place of tremendous suffering and death, Lincoln reminded us of a founding truth that all men are created equal. All people, equal in the eyes of God. Not all white people, not all New Yorkers, not all Americans, all people. And if we take that seriously, is it any wonder that the two angels urged the disciples to get on with it? So much yet to do. Still is. If the words of Abraham Lincoln remind us of what we're about as a nation, then the words of Jesus Christ remind us of what we're about as people of faith. And such words are priceless, because they direct and they refine our best efforts. But of course, as for the kids, words need to be followed by deeds. Years ago, when my dad thought I was working my mouth more than my hands, he'd say, "Less talk, more do." Jesus left us with more than words. He left us with a job, with a promise, purpose, and power. Power of the Holy Spirit to equip us for that work. One church urged its members to, quote, "Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our church and the community." It goes by fast. You have to catch that. And well, we should remember them, not to mention remember proofreading. By the grace of God and enabled by that Holy Spirit, we just might bless the lives of even those who are sick of our church. And many others, too. We're not without good work to do, nor the power to do it. So guided by the highest ideals of the living Christ, there's so much good stuff yet to come. Thanks be to God.